Run through.
Okay.
Since I'm here,
Yeah, since we're all here.
Because a lot of it is more, this is just like an old-fashioned briefing,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know.
Do you, I'm sorry, do you want me to take like an informal meeting notes, or is it like an official meeting?
I don't think you do. I think the commission failed to achieve a quorum.
Okay. So no minutes?
You can
or-
say heard a presentation from staff.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would do that.
Okay, presentation from
Yeah.
staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, you're not taking any action, so listen.
Right.
And then can we dismiss Amanda?
She's also up to stay.
Yeah, up to her.
Well, if we end up with a fourth,
Oh, yeah, we may,
I really do love. Well, let's just in case Marcus or Julie come in, right? Because would she want? Yeah.
Sure.
that's good.
All right, so just a couple things tonight.
So we'll put off approval of the minutes. We'll do that next time.
Yes.
Okay.
So, again, to remind everybody where we are in the POCD process, I think you know where we are, but just for the technical aspects of it, so we do have a public hearing scheduled for October 24th, 7 PM at the library. According to state statute, we have transmitted the POCD to the Board of Selectmen, the CROG, and the town clerk. And also, there is a requirement in the state law to prominent, or it doesn't say prominent, but display that, have it available on the town website. So it is available on the
Yep.
town website.
Saw it.
Again, there's no real guidance for what to do on the 24th. I would, treat it like a good old-fashioned public hearing. I think Glenn and I will make a brief presentation to the those in attendance. I expect it'll be fairly well attended for sure. And I would again take testimony and I'd recommend considering closing the public hearing or continue. You always have the right to continue that public hearing. And then when you ultimately close the public hearing, I suspect Glenn and I again will provide you with that kind of list matrix of comments and recommendations, and then you'll need to kind of go through them again.
Yep.
What do you want to change? What do you not want to change?
We have to keep the public hearing open if we want to have discussion. I mean, we're not probably going to have time, the public, on the night of the public hearing to have discussion. So do we have to keep the public hearing open for us to have discussion at the next meeting?
You don't have to keep the public hearing open to have discussion.
Okay.
You need to keep the public hearing open if you intend to receive new or additional information.
Okay.
But no, you do not need to keep the public hearing open.
So my question would be, we've done an exhaustive, and we're having the public hearing. Unless there's something glaring.
So I would caution you never to just go in with a game plan.
Right.
It's gonna change.
Right, exactly.
Somebody might bring up a point, and say, well, maybe we
We
need
should
some
do that.
additional information on that. So try not to.
So we could go either way.
If we're an hour into the public hearing and 16 people have spoken and that's kind of it, and it got quiet and there's nobody else to speak, then it can be up to you.
Okay.
You decide
All
what
right.
to do. Yeah, again, you can make any revisions to the plan after the public hearing.
Okay.
Particularly, I would recommend that any changes you make are based on the testimony you've heard. Again, I'm careful about making decisions based on new information that's not part of the record.
Right. Okay.
So I think we're in good shape there. We have gotten some comments.
Because it was 2 hours, the one at the library,
Yeah.
the meeting at the library. So, but some of the changes have been made, but I would assume it's,
And again,
You know.
this is the quiet period. We do not make any revisions, you do not direct revisions. We're quiet into the public hearing.
right.
I do see a record at CROG of them receiving it. Yep.
Yeah, big document. That was a little dog and pony show to get that transmitted to
Really?
electronically. It was.
It's big.
They don't have Dropbox. We got it to them, but it wasn't that easy
Oh, my God.
because it's a big document, obviously. Okay, so let's stay with planning stuff. So, if you remember, POCD calls for a series of special study areas. And this body and with help of the Board of Selectmen and the budgeting process, I put $50,000 in FY 23-24 to start a Tarryville small area neighborhood planning process. However we define that, which is part of the discussion at some point we're going to need to have, which is how do we do it, what do we want to do it, what's the best way to do it. But,
So that's good till June 30th, the 50,000.
no, that's been,
Petty
that money has been appropriated,
Okay.
so we got it. And we'll talk about the, last item, what I hope to kind of convince the board of selectmen and the board of finance and you guys as a kind of a way forward on kind of a continuous planning process. So right out of the POCD, just remember it says, this is why we should do a special study of Carafil, retain the village characteristics, evaluations and opportunities in the village, and review zoning designations and those kinds of things. So we put 50,000 this year, and I would, I would also propose probably, it's gonna be a zoning heavy process. I suspect we're gonna come up with some changes to zoning, and most of those lots are R15 lots, and there's, gosh, half of them or more are non-conforming lots already, because they don't meet the minimum. We're gonna wanna have those conversations, so probably put another bunch of money in next year. But I expected this, we would start this with, after we take a breath after the POCD, but I certainly think you'll be done with the POCD by January first. I certainly hope you would adopt it in December at the latest. And so we need to kind of think about what that process is. I mean, usually small area plans are, they don't get too complex. We want to look at the existing land use, have discussions with the community about, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, old-fashioned SWOT analysis probably, and think about what does Terrafil want to be, and what do we see Terrafil being, and then put some policies together and implementation steps. So if you see it, folks have talked, why don't we just do a charrette? I'm not sure that's the best thing, but it might be. I don't think design is the most important thing. I think land use down there is probably the most important thing. I don't know how much. So there could be a design development. I guess I don't know that it's my job to decide that. I think we should decide that together, perhaps with a consultant. I anticipate hiring a consultant. Staff does not have the capacity to do these in-house at all. I am meeting with two representatives of the Terrafil Neighborhood Association, Sharon and
Sherry Landerman?
Yeah, Sherry and Don Mead.
Yeah, John Mead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm meeting with them tomorrow, actually. I just want to do the same thing. Introduce them to them, remind them we have the money, let them know, obviously they are an active and interested and advocate, an advocacy group that is, quite involved. And we obviously want to include them. We just have to figure out how to do that as part of the process. So, the reason for the briefing is just to let you know, when POC done, we're going to move on to another project.
Good.
And that's the role of planning.
And when you say when you were talking about non-conforming lots,
Yeah.
There's a lot?
There are some, for sure,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, they don't,
Do you have it, what would be an example of one, can you say?
You've got houses on lots that are 6,000 square feet, and the minimum lot size is 15. So if something would happen, it makes it difficult to rebuild, and difficult to meet setbacks.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I do think that, Terrafil's different, it's got a little bit more density, and the houses are closer together, and you probably want it that way, because it's kind of, that was the mill village, and it was those kinds of things. And so we'll probably want to just memorialize that to make it easier to redevelop over time. It's concentrated, so you know what your geography is. You've got resources there, the river's there, an East Coast Greenway that we cut the ribbon on, built, and you got a wonderful park asset that I know the town is continuing to think about in terms of improving, and what does that park become when it grows up, and what is it really?
Yeah.
So I think there's some really neat elements. You got Main Street that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Could be cooler. So it's neat, and that attention should be paid. So we'll go to that.
Okay.
Public notice for public hearing. So I've been here about 18 months now, a little bit more. So we're starting to try to identify things that maybe we ought to fix, or at least think about, just to make things easier for everybody and make them more coordinated. This really came out of the zoning commission, because we were talking about how we notice public hearings at the zoning commission. The zoning commission public hearings, we do not send out abutter notices or post signs. For public hearings at the zoning commission, we only do 2 runs in the newspaper. That is not the same at the planning commission. When you have a public hearing, we do notify butters within 100 feet. In the wetlands, we do that, we notify them. For the zoning board of appeals, we just post a sign. Well, I would hope that we would be a little bit more consistent. So under the state law, the requirement is just for a newspaper. There's no requirement for notices to abutters, or there's no requirement for signposting. But you may, local bodies may. And I think I think it behooves us to do a better job of alerting the public, and I think we ought to be consistent across the board. So the zoning commission represented to them said, well, go talk to the other boards and see what they want to do. So for you guys, I think the question would be, would you be in favor of increasing the public notice by adding the sign? And that would be the question for you. You've got.
Well, I can tell you, I
Public
definitely,
hearings, right? So I'm talking about for you, it's a subdivision public hearing or a re-subdivision public hearing. That's
fine.
when you do your public hearing.
I think abutters should be notified all the time. I am shocked.
do too.
I mean, I'm shocked, so I can't, like, that's not transparency at all. So I would say, I would want the notice to the property, and I'm fine with sign
Some of the
posting.
decision-making we have to make is, if you do, so today, staff is responsible for the notice to a butter. We do the mailing.
Yeah.
Part of the deal, we do it, and when they're there, we do it, and we know, even though we make mistakes, if you're relying on property owners and business owners to jeopardize their public hearings, that I don't want to stay with staff.
Right, I
frankly.
agree.
So, I mean, but there are options. The Canton and Bloomfield would let the applicants do it, for instance. So, I mean, there's a little bit of cost savings to the town. We don't spend $1 million.
Is that a change in Bloomfield? Because I got noticed from the town when I lived there, that there was somebody,
Just got a list from our neighbors,
Oh.
how they did it. So, I don't know. Anyway, so that is a decision, but I have already told the planning commission, I think we ought to, staff can handle that, it's better.
okay.
So, I mean, that would be the question. Of course, I would agree, I would certainly take it back to the zoning commission, you guys thought about this. They are considering what they would propose. They were talking about signs for one and of others for another type of application. Like, let's just be consistent if we can, but we can all agree that the butters, butters are good for the neighbors, right?
Right.
Sometimes the sign is good for other people in the community, but.
I definitely think of
I get a lot of
butters.
things about signs, so anytime we're talking about adding more signs to our aesthetic, it makes me a little nervous.
Where would the signs be posted?
So on premise, so if you had a subdivision that had road frontage, you put it on the road frontage.
Oh, okay, so that's what you're talking, okay.
I'm not asking you to make a decision, it's really gonna be up to the planning commission to make their decision in there. I'm not asking you to make any changes to your subdivision regs. Your
Yeah.
subdivision regs say property owners within 100, abutters within 100 feet, or all properties within 100 feet of the application. But I just wanted to let you know we're having that discussion at the zoning commission, because they're not consistent with what you guys do.
Okay.
And again, they don't have to be, but, we do have some repeat customers that hold it. I was just at the zoning board of appeals, and I had to put a sign, and now and it can be confusing, and that's not best for the community involved.
I agree.
So,
Okay.
So, as you well know, that you provide referrals for zoning commission, all zoning commission text amendments, and there are 2 that continue to hang out there a little bit, and then 1 new one that we'll be bringing to you in the soon. So I just wanted to update you what's kind of pending. So the zoning commission withdrew the original mobile food vendor food truck ordinance, and they did that at their last meeting. And they directed staff to redraft with more, what I would call more permissive approach. So the drafting went to public hearing back in July, with allowed food trucks only at food and beverage locations. So essentially, a food truck can be at a restaurant or a bar. We had brought members of the restaurant community in and had a stakeholder meeting, and the commission has changed direction a little bit. I mean, really my job to speak for them, but they've changed direction. They have two new members, and so there's a little bit of a different thought, and they have directed staff to redraft an ordinance and hold a new public hearing on November 20th that would allow food trucks at essentially at any occupied commercial location.
Mm.
So B1, B2, B3, PO, the PA, I wanted to. So I'm going to them on next Tuesday night with the language that they asked me to draft, and then they set the public hearing, and so we would come to you for referral in your October.
So they could have a food truck at an industrial
Yes,
location or,
Is it by permit?
yes.
oh, so they'd have to get the,
Well,
okay.
by permit,
Okay.
by administrative zoning permit, staff permit.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's more than one, then we'd have to go to the zoning commission for site plan approval.
Did they give a reason?
The planning commission, or the zoning commission give a reason?
They just wanted
They
more
thought
use?
that the restaurant owner was too restrictive.
Okay.
That was the reason. And, of course, the restaurateurs and those business owners are concerned that those food trucks can take away from their businesses, so. I expect there'll be a public hearing offering that. So it is a little bit of a, it's a complicated issue.
Yeah.
Cannabis, just as a reminder, if the referendum passes in the affirmative to allow retail cannabis, the zoning commission will have to turn around very quickly and craft and approve a text amendment so that we have rules in place for retail cannabis. As I understand the state statute, our referendum is the 6th or the 7th, whatever that November date is.
7th.
If it passes, retail cannabis would be legal in Simsbury on the first Monday in December. So we're gonna, they had directed me to use the same language that we had when we were moving through the process with the board of selectmen, with the prohibition in place. It essentially would allow retail cannabis only in B3 within 1,500 feet of the intersection of 202 and Bushy Hill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Remember that language?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
This
I had
body's
that.
I remember
recommendation
that.
was that was too restricted. Actually.
Right.
I think you
Right.
had- I think you were not in favor of that text. It's
Right.
recommended a wider reach. So we will, if that happens, we're gonna figure out how to get it to you in time, but we'll bring that back to you for a referral.
Okay.
Probably have the same
If all that
discussion.
happens,
We'll have
have
the same
a
discussion.
hearing, we go on with our lives. And then finally, there was a state law that was passed over the summer, goes into effect October 1st. It's, I think, in that bit larger housing law that, that deals with, again, this definition of family, particularly as it relates to group homes and family care homes. Essentially what it says, and I think it reaffirms clearly that family group homes with, there's some, up to 6 or more than 6, between 6 and we'll go through that when I bring it to you, must be treated like a single family home. Meaning you can't require a special permitting process, have to be treated like single family uses. So we will, and the local government has to attest that we've made those changes or our zoning ordinance meets the state requirement. So I haven't really done a lot of work on it, but know that we have to do it and we'll bring it to you. I haven't even introduced the zoning commission yet.
And that's for, you said group homes?
So family home, it's essentially family care homes, yeah, they call, that's the definition under the state law. So yeah, group homes, which would be non-related peoples
Yep.
live together.
Okay.
Yes. Typically under a permitting process by the state housing authority, social services. So there may be accessibility issues
Yeah.
or
Yep.
those kinds of things.
Mhm.
This is an interesting one that we'll need to hit the street on pretty quickly. We have known for several years that FEMA was studying floodplain and our flood zones and floodways in the entire Farmington Valley region. And those those revised maps are now available, and there's a process associated with that. Now, the town doesn't adopt the FEMA maps. We're in the FEMA floodplain program and the insurance program. These are the maps we get. Individual property owners will be able to look at the maps and determine and understand what the maps are and have the ability to appeal. There will be cases where your increase of flood risk increases on your property, and there will be other properties where it doesn't, or it's less. Those maps are available. I think we link to them on our website or on the town engineer's website. In fact, I think we're going to do a little broader public outreach to everybody. FEMA changes the maps, and they tell the local governments, you've got to do the outreach to let everybody know. We have got about 1,000 parcels in our flood zones in the town of Simsbury, so we'll do that. And wanted to make sure that you knew about it. Maybe it'll start getting on the website. We'll do some. We'll do a press release, and then FEMA will have an open house in the spring, I believe, to kind of walk people through it. But yeah, there'll be impacts on those. All right, so just to finish up, so the tariff bill plan is the first of what I hope would be a small area planning process that's ongoing. If you recall, the POCD was Tarryville, Weetach Center, West Simsbury, Hoskins, and West Street, all with the same action step.
Mhm.
Should do a small area plan, a planning study for these areas. To look at land use, you know, the POCD is not it's not the job of the POCD to get so acute in its analysis or review or recommendation. So these action steps give us the opportunity to look a little bit closer at these particular areas for land use, you know, more acute policy, design, any of those kinds of things. So we have a capital planning process internally where we put together a 6-year plan, FY 24 through 30 now, or 25 through 30. And I am going to propose, and I hope you would support me, that we put in place, an annual budget item that allows us to move from one small area study to the next. It'll be up to you to decide which ones to do when. I think that's your job. If you don't want to do this, you should let me know that you don't want to do this. But again, these are action steps in the plan.
Yeah,
And we shouldn't have action steps in the plan that we're not going to do.
I agree.
And that will be also a bigger piece, as you well know, once we get the POC done. We're going to work much harder to identify the action steps and assign and implement and do those kinds of things. We have to, we should. And we talked about having a committee of land use chairs.
And meeting
board
quarterly or
selectmen,
something, yeah.
So that we can all get on the same page and say, this is what we identify as important, what are we gonna do? And how are we gonna do it, and when are we gonna do it? So I think this would be nice, and it'll be a conversation I'll have to sell to the board of selectmen, that it's important, and these things are important to us, we say they are. We asked for 50,000 for the $50,000 for the Tarryville study. That's probably what they cost. I don't really know. I mean, the numbers change every other day, and at year 6 in FY 30, probably a little bit more expensive. But these are finite areas that are manageable, I think, and I think in some cases perhaps staff can do those in-house. But I would love for us to commit to a bigger picture planning in the community.
Would we have to put out an RFI or an RFP or something for it to get a,
Yeah, we would have to follow our
consultant, yeah.
purchasing rules at the town. If we decided to do a vendor and consultant, yeah, we would go through that process.
Q, is it RFQ and RFP? We always do RFPs, but yeah.
And again, we talk about which ones are easier to do, which ones are harder, which ones are more important. I mean, there's a prioritization. They are listed this way because this is how they're listed in the POCD. And there's no attempt to prioritize here. That's each, one page after another, that's how they're listed.
Yep.
But that's I think exciting for staff because
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard just to do permitting and complaints and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Really, it's happened, you know, I didn't go to college to have building permits, so that's what we do, but this is part of what we
Right.
do. It has to guide the community on the vision for land use. So, I just want to let you know that I'm going to do that as part of the budget process this year, and see what happens.
And we've talked about when the POCD, we get the final, we're gonna have an implementation meeting fairly quickly, right? The first one and then plan after that? Was that what we had decided to do?
So I would suggest we have an implementation meeting the 1st of January.
Yep. Okay.
Sometime.
And we had talked about a prioritization
We did,
effort.
and so we
Yeah, I
talked
think-
about that a little bit, and we are gonna propose to come back and do a new prioritization when all the elections are done. We have quite a potential for turnover in the community across all of our land use boards.
Mhm.
I think we'd be better served to have that prioritization with those newly elected members.
Yeah, that's not an issue,
Yeah.
right? We have our public hearing, when is it? For
24.
October 24th.
October 24th, and election day is November
Yeah.
7th. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, well, I
A
would-
little bit of training and swearing-ins and all those kinds of things, so.
So with the revised POCD, when will it be implemented? Let's say, there's no further work based on the public hearing, the planning commission's satisfied, CROG doesn't have any comments, it's all ready to go. When does it get implemented?
Well, you'll make a motion and vote for adoption
Right,
at a subsequent meeting,
right.
if you're ready, when you're ready.
No, like-
So it could be November, your November 13th might be.
Right, so it'll be after election, okay, but
It won't be
it
before.
doesn't, the.
Unless, unless you close the public hearing and vote that night, which I
Yeah.
would not recommend you do.
No, it's okay, yeah, even though,
Have a
right,
special meeting, or whatever you think is best.
right, the new terms for elected officials is December 1st?
Yeah, it's that first week of
Right,
October.
okay.
That Monday, I understand, is that
Yeah.
swearing in.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
We could.
So we'd have 2
We're able to do
meetings.
the work in November, there's no reason
Yeah.
we shouldn't be able to complete it in November.
Yep.
I don't think I'll be,
No.
No, I don't think that's a stretch.
yeah.
No, because what I see is we'll have a discussion on November 14th, right? I guess the 14th. That would be, right, we'd have a discussion, and if there's any, if we decide to
So if you
tweak some
direct
things, we
change
would
on-
direct change.
If you do direct changes on the 14th, I have another meeting when we're for
And then it would
essentially
be after that.
the adoption on the agenda.
Okay. Understood.
All right, so that,
Fair
I'll
enough.
give you a little briefing as I was telling Aaron on the phone. I don't think it's great when you guys haven't met since like October or August.
It's been-
Yeah,
It's a
no,
long time, you should at least get you in the room and chat a
Yep.
little bit. If there's anything you need me to be doing or thinking about, you can let me know. But that's what I got for you tonight. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I anticipate people coming to the public hearing.
well, we did last time, right?
Yeah.
For sure, I hope so. I would be disappointed.
And well, I think that, we can actually identify some of the changes that have been incorporated
Oh, gosh.
based on the input.
With Glenn as part of his even initial comments to address some of that stuff, yes.
Yeah,
We have made.
a ton of changes.
In,
Mhm.
4 iterations.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
From April to
Yep.
August 11th.
I think we'll be hearing some of the same comments, but that's fine.
That's okay, that's why
Right.
we have the process.
Exactly. Yep,
All right,
so.
you don't have to adjourn.
No, we never started the meeting.
Oh.